All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first episode of the Vulnerability Tour. This entire episode is really just focused around anxiety, personal experiences of mine and Jennifer's, different ways that we can cope, different ways that we can identify it, and just really wanted to open up this dialogue and conversation around it. If you guys have any input, tips that work for you, or just feedback in general, feel free to let us know. We're at the beginning of this journey, and we're really open and receptive to try and get some feedback from you guys as far as, you know, what's working, what's not, topics that you guys care about and that matter to you, and we will definitely try and include those on upcoming episodes. Really excited to have you guys. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to
The Vulnerability Tour with Jen and Rafa and Jen and Gigi.
Woo!
We back in this thing. Okay, we're launching this off. This is our first in a series of our mental health challenges and how to overcome them. So today we're going to be talking about anxiety. What? So today we're going to be talking, and I'm going to be asking her questions.
Yes.
About what is anxiety? How do you deal with it? How do
Okay.
you know what it is? And ultimately, what can we do to try and reduce it? Or if there is a solution, is there not? We're going to find out. So we welcome you guys, the Vulnerability Tour, episode 1. We off. Okay.
So I would like to preface this with, again, this is a conversation between us, but we would love for you to join us in the living room and feel a part of this conversation. We're not always going to look all prepped up and nice.
We might be looking bummy. But
it's going to be very casual. We want to have real, raw conversations as if you and I were sitting in the living room right now just having a chat, but we happen to be on camera because we want other people to join us along with Gigi.
Amen.
Yes.
Okay.
So anxiety.
I think you should start with your story and kind of how it's impacted you. I can give the perspective of what it's been like to be around that, but go ahead and just kind of, I feel like you should share your story a little bit so people know.
Okay. Well, before I share my story, I feel like it's important to acknowledge those who are feeling anxiety right now around this current situation of very unexpected change and disruption in our routines, in the mundane. And sometimes anxiety can be very overwhelming. And I think that now more than ever, people are probably going to experience anxiety for the first time. So a little bit about my story. I've been dealing with anxiety for a really long time. And I mean generalized anxiety disorder. There's a difference between having feelings of anxiety and then having anxiety that is pretty much chronic, that is pretty much a part of your everyday life. And I was not aware of what anxiety was when I first started experiencing it, because I actually started experiencing it when I was really young. I would say, and by young, I mean, I did not have a care in the world to figure out what was wrong with me. But I started having a lot of stomach issues, a lot of headaches, and my parents did everything to take me to this doctor, that hospital to figure out where my stomach issues were coming from. And every doctor was like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'll never forget, there was this one doctor, and this was actually after I was dealing with other health issues, which were respiratory issues. I had sleep apnea for a while, then I developed asthma, and all of this happened out of nowhere in my early 20s, like 23 or so. And one of these doctors, I remember he was talking to me separately away from my parents, and he asked me if I've ever heard of somatic symptoms. And I said no. And at that point in time, I really did not care to Google and figure out what that was. But now that I'm older and I'm woke, I'm enlightened, I'm fully aware that those stomach pains were really coming from the anxiety. Sometimes anxiety manifests in your body in ways where you're like, I didn't know that it was related to anxiety. But those are called somatic symptoms.
So what is that? What are somatic symptoms?
Somatic symptoms can be headaches. It can be cramps. It can be stomach pains. It's very common for stomach and gastro issues to develop or for you to experience without cause. And it's really the anxiety. So I think that I've been dealing with the anxiety for about 7 years now, possibly longer. I've talked to my therapist about it, and we've gone back in time to see when was the first time I felt anxiety. Maybe it was 12 years old, maybe it was 13 years old. But anxiety has just been like, boop, showing up in different ways. But it became very, very distressing the past 2 to 3 years, because you live with me and you're part of my everyday life, and you've noticed a change in that anxiety and really how it's just progressed and gone up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think so. Like when we first started dating, it wasn't
4 years ago.
I guess maybe it wasn't
5 years
that prevalent, or I don't know what, like rampant, I guess. Like it ramped up over time, I feel, as your responsibilities and stressors also started stacking. Jennifer, you started your real estate career
At 22,
okay.
before I started dating you. However, I was an undergrad student and I was starting to do real estate, but I was not taking real estate as seriously when I first started, and I was a college student. And to be completely honest with you, when you're a college student, you have so much freedom, it's ridiculous that you don't realize how much freedom you have until you graduate and you're like, what do I do with all this time? So the anxiety was probably there, but it was just like here's anxiety, I'm gonna go now, because my life was good. My life is free. My life was very simple. It was college and real estate, and that was it.
Okay, so tell me, like, what is anxiety? What's happening in your brain when you have anxiety? What is it?
Okay, so anxiety manifests
Where's it come from? What is it?
everyone's
Yeah.
bodies very differently. So
Okay.
I will preface that with that very important information, because sometimes we are unaware of what anxiety is in our body. So let me tell you how it can look like in your body. You can experience shortness of breath. You can experience tenseness everywhere. You can
Like you're walking around tense, feeling all tense?
correct, but
Okay.
even like as far as your toes, like even your fists. And sometimes we don't notice that. I mean, there's so many times where I walk around like this all day, every day, all day, just like this. And then I'm like, oh.
This
I
is a
feel the
true story,
difference.
because literally I see her working on her laptop and I have to like grab her shoulders and I'm like, like just,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anxiety can show up in that way. Anxiety can also show up, like we talked about, somatic symptoms, so stomach pains. Also, depends on what kind of anxiety, right? But if we go towards social anxiety, maybe around certain people, maybe ordering food, maybe picking up the phone to order a pizza makes you anxious. And that's totally normal. I mean, that just means that your body needs a little extra love. It does not mean that you're weird. It does not mean that there's something wrong with you. It's just some of us have to deal with certain issues and some of us don't. And I think that's just being human. I feel like we shouldn't beat ourselves up over experiencing these things. And it's very interesting that I've come across so many people that don't know that they've been living with anxiety for so many years.
How do you not know if you don't have anxiety? How do you not know you have anxiety if you have it?
Let me tell you why. Because people don't know what anxiety is. And just like you asked me right now, what does it look like in your body? There's so many people.
You didn't even say chest pain.
Yes. So chest pain, chest tightness, you feel like just going like this and opening up. The most common one is rapid thoughts everywhere. It's like you have a million computer tabs open and you can't close them. You can't even close one. It's a million computer tabs and your mind is running a million times per hour. And then, mind you, you're at work, you're taking a walk, you're trying to spend time with your husband, but your mind is like, right? But that person may not understand that. They may not feel that. But that is all in here. All of that is happening. A whole bunch of thoughts. And then when anxiety is really bad, it turns into a whole bunch of negative self-talk, negative thoughts, irrational thinking, oh, I'm gonna fail this test. I already know I'm gonna fail the test. Knowing that you've been preparing and studying for 7 days straight, that's anxiety.
I think that's a huge part to talk about, because in entrepreneurship, that's something that people even struggle with all the time, right? It's that, am I doing this right? Is this the right way? I have to call this guy. I have to do this thing. I have to jump this thing. And you're kind of setting your mind up to race and have all these thoughts. And I think with you, I can see you sometimes, and I know your mind is like loud.
My mind is loud, and then I feel it physically as well. So my heart rate goes like this. Heart rate goes up like this, as if I was just running 7 miles. And then you feel shortness of breath, like you can't breathe. And you feel chest tightness, and you feel like your mind just doesn't stop. And then te desesperas. You get so frustrated and irritated with yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why? What are you doing, body? Calm down. Stop. Pause.
For sure.
But that's anxiety. That's how it can show up in your body. And for some people, it's more severe than others. And I'm assuming your questions are going to address what I was about to talk about. So I'm going to pause.
I mean, we can rant it out. There's no rules. No rules at all.
So for those who do experience a more severe anxiety, I believe that talk therapy is extremely helpful for this. Any sort of healer that will talk to you openly and non-judgmentally about the anxiety. For you to have a safe space, to come to someone and say, hey, I've been feeling this. What is it? And why am I dealing with it? And how do you manage it? Because anxiety is something that kind of sneaks into your life, into your days. And then once it's there, it's so hard to get out of it. You can try breathing techniques and that helps. It helps. However, the anxiety sort of remains all day. The anxiety is just there.
For everybody, or for people with generalized anxiety disorder?
I think for people with generalized anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
For me, as someone who has that, I know that my anxiety, rephrase, you never want to say my anxiety because it's not mine. I experience anxiety. That's a healthier way to say it.
Okay.
So when I experience anxiety, I already know that I'm going to experience anxiety probably 5 days out of the week, if not every single day. And I think that's something important for me to communicate with you as my partner who lives with me, for me to communicate with my family, with my loved ones, and say, hey, this is what I have going on. Because if not, people can lose their patience with you. People can look at you like you're crazy. People might not understand you and act upon that. And that's not really fair when you're already so anxious. So what has helped me personally is medication, is talk therapy, is yoga. It's having a understanding, willing to learn patient partner. Because if I didn't have you, my anxiety would be worse. Okay. The anxiety that I experience.
It's hard, yo.
Will be worse.
And she's a pro, so imagine. We're working on it. And I think that's something that we want to touch on at some point too, is that the words, the thoughts, the stories you tell yourself, and the way you communicate to yourself, from yourself, is extremely important. And that can contribute into a lot of the perspective, I'm sure a lot of the feeling, to make things that it probably amplifies it in some effect. But what I wanted to ask you was, in this time, people are experiencing this whole coronavirus thing.
Yeah.
How could anxiety look like for people going through this?
Okay.
How do they know maybe that they're dealing with something?
Very simple. Their thoughts can look like, where's my money going to come from? When is my next paycheck? Why isn't the government doing anything? Why don't I have any answers? What am I going to do about my wife who is only here because I told her I would take care of the kids and hold the house down? Is she going to leave me? What are my kids going to think when I tell them that I can't get them a Christmas present, right? Like, all these thoughts are happening at once in people's heads. And that is just focused on career. So then you put in any other topic, and the same irrational thinking is occurring. The same questions, the same doubt. But then it becomes nonstop. Then it's crippling.
It's like a cycle.
Yeah, it's a cycle in here, and then that affects you physically. you feel irritated. You don't want to be around anyone. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to watch the news, or maybe you watch the news so much because it's a compulsion. Like you're trying to find answers. So you're going to turn on the TV expecting answers, and every single day you probably end up disappointed because there's no answers.
That's what I want to talk about with you, because I think probably the most important part of dealing with anxiety, I don't think I've dealt with it on the level that you've dealt with it, because I don't have the disorder.
Yeah,
I don't believe I have ADD like no one's business. But as far as feeling anxiety, I definitely feel it, but maybe in spurts, maybe more of the average amount of anxiety. I don't know if that's a thing. But more importantly, what I really want to talk about is being able to identify the triggers, right? Being able to figure out the things.
Well, the triggers are different for everyone.
Exactly, right? So no, that's what I want to say, but that a lot of people want to know, well, what's causing my anxiety? And I think it's a subjective answer, right?
It's very subjective. It's very personal.
Know,
It's very unique. It's very intimate. And sometimes it's really difficult to share that because it's intimate, right? What is causing me anxiety? When you ask yourself that, what is really causing me anxiety? Is it my husband? Is it my kid?
What's causing you anxiety right now?
I don't have any anxiety right now. But
these days, I guess I should say.
Well, these days, coffee, honestly, a big piece of suggestion for all of you is to figure out what it is that makes your anxiety worse.
So
right?
coffee's one of your triggers, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because right now is the time to really be observant, mindful, and analyze your behaviors, track your thoughts, track your actions, figure out what it is that is affecting and causing the anxiety to go out of control. Is it your husband telling you to make dinner for him every night? Is it you having to clean everything in the house and you feel like no one is helping you around? Like all of that, you have to really identify what it is to then figure out, okay, this is my list. This is the list. This is the list. This is the list of the things that are making me feel a little out of control, that frustrate me, that irritate me, right? A very clear example for me is coming home to a dirty home. I cannot. No, and it's not funny. I'm sorry, but it's not funny because it makes me extremely anxious when I'm coming home after working really hard, because I'm extremely hardworking. I come home, probably haven't had dinner, probably haven't eaten a meal all day, and then there's a mess everywhere. No, I'm sorry. And then, imagine what that can lead to, right? What that can lead to for your mental health, for the mental health of the person who's living with you, of the people who are in your family. So it's important to identify, well, what is it that really is just causing me to activate? What's causing me to spiral a little bit out of control? And something very simple is coffee, right? So caffeine accelerates anxiety. Caffeine accelerates your heart rate. It gives you energy in a way that is very quick, easy. Drink this, you'll feel energized, but then that equals anxiety. So you feel
not for everybody though.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely
for people
not
who
for
have
everyone.
anxiety, it can amplify.
100%.
Yeah.
So for coffee lovers
Starbucks
like
is
me,
gonna sue us. Like,
right.
Yo, what you talking about? Anxiety. Not everybody does that. Come on, drink my coffee. Yeah.
So for coffee lovers, I recommend, and you have been dealing with some anxiety, even if it's minor, if it's moderate, if it's severe anxiety, no matter where you may be on the spectrum, it's important to figure out what are the things that cause your anxiety to develop, to get bigger, imagine a monster. I say this to a lot of people. Imagine that anxiety is this big thing, and you can hate it, you can love it, but you choose. Like, what are you doing? Are you trying to figure it out? Are you trying to manage it? Do you want to get better at whatever that is? I want to get better at it.
So let's talk about like this. I feel I want to share a personal anecdote of I guess recently what I've been experiencing with this whole thing, and Jennifer knows this very well, which is I definitely want to stay informed, but the news in many aspects is kind of anxiety provoking because you're only seeing the worsening, you know, the deeper that we're getting, the peril that lies ahead, you know, and that kind of makes me feel like it's not adding much benefit to my life to me to continue to
adding more panic.
Watch the news. Yeah, it kind of incites this state
Correct.
of, you know, and even last week we were talking about, you know, Jennifer. So what I wanted to share was that I noticed that that's something that's arising some anxiety inside of me.
That's
and
great
so,
awareness.
And so communicating that with you, and I think you noticed it. You're like, yo, do you mind if, you know, you're like, yo, are you good watching the news? And I was like, I'm good. I want to know what's happening, but I also understand that when I watch the news, it does incite a little more anxiety in me. And so I feel like I need to temper it.
Thank you for saying that.
And be more intentional about the time that and about the relationship that I have with the news.
Do you know what that is?
No.
It's called setting boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. Setting boundaries. So anyway, that's why I wanted to share that, because I think a big part of that anxiety that I am dealing with is only being alleviated because I've been able to communicate that with you. You know, because you're in my space, because you're around me, because you
and I respect
value it. Yeah, you respect and value it. And so now, Jennifer, you know, we have this question in our house. It's like, yo, can I put the news on? Like, sometimes I'll say yes, other times I'll say in a little bit, other times I'll be like,
that's boundaries.
Put it on.
Being respectful of the development of panic, of fear, of anxiety. And I think that it's something very important for people to be aware of right now is, are you being mindful of the people in your home and how they're being affected by this?
For sure. Checking in to see how,
Check in.
because not everybody's dealing with this all the same way, right? I mean, I think that's, and
we're
anxiety
all too
looks,
different.
and it looks like different things. And a lot of times, and I think the biggest thing, because for the longest time, I really didn't even understand what you were experiencing. And I really still don't feel like I know exactly what you're experiencing, but I just know that's like some real shit. So I gotta treat it with respect, you know, and I do. And I try and treat it with respect.
And I appreciate that.
And I try, and that's what it's about. But my point being is, it's gonna look different in the people in your household. And, you know, anxiety is not always news related. I even think now we're dealing with these new challenges of what's happening in today's world. And, you know, unintended challenge. Okay, you're around your family, you're around your partner, you're around people a lot more, and that can bring some anxiety into your life. That can bring some more stressors into your life. And I think,
or you can feel in complete isolation and loneliness.
For sure. And
even if you're surrounded by family, that's heavy. That's deep. That's scary.
Okay, so then what do you do? Because, I mean, there's people who live with multiple people, and especially with family members, how do you make sure that you're respectful of maybe what they're experiencing? Because some people just want their space. You know, some people just want to be left alone, but then you don't know what's the line of like, man, like, should they be alone? Or
I mean,
how does that work? I don't know.
It's really contingent upon each family, right? I mean, imagine how different we are as different humans, and then you put humans together in a unit. Imagine how unique each unit is.
Sure.
That I cannot identify one specific answer that fits all. But what I can say is, if your family is open to it, if you are open to it, you can have conversations around boundaries inside of the home. You can have weekly check-ins as to, hey, and it doesn't have to be long. You don't have to pour your heart out and say, hey, I'm feeling really anxious about everything because of this, and this, and this. No, you can just say, man,
I need some space.
You can rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you feeling today? And leave it like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's being respectful of those who are not comfortable sharing their emotions, their feelings. I mean, this is all new for everyone. It's a shock. Essentially, we're all going through a shock right now.
Oh, I think you said, what did you say earlier? It's like the world is mourning right now? Or was it the world's experiencing grief?
The world is experiencing grief.
Yeah, talk about that. What does that mean?
To be completely honest with you, I feel like we've poured out so much information.
Maybe it's too much
in this segment.
Okay, we're gonna come back.
We can talk about that in the other segment.
All right, well, let's do
What
it.
was it again?
Grief.
Grief.
No, but hold on.
Oh,
Before,
man,
okay,
yes.
so we're gonna address grief in one of the upcoming episodes. But before we go, we have been speaking a little bit on a somber note of anxiety. What are some possible solutions?
Great.
What are some
Thank you for
possible,
asking that.
things that people can do, actionable right now, maybe in their
Okay.
home? I think you mentioned breathing exercises. Just like what are some examples and how have you been able to personally process that?
Okay.
Maybe
So-
activities, exercises, or something like that. I don't know.
Okay. So what I will do is I'm going to provide a few solutions that can be helpful for you, and then we're gonna close this what did we call this?
Episode?
Okay. We're gonna close this episode with me introducing and actually showing you what a breathing technique looks like.
Word.
So you can go ahead and do it with me. I can guide you through it, or you can do it after the episode. But I really want people to know that there are very easy ways to manage your anxiety, but they may not seem easy because they're not as accessible. So
Hit me.
first of all, breathing techniques are really helpful. If you simply Google breathing techniques for anxiety, and a very reliable, credible source is Psychology Today. If you go on Psychology Today and you type in anxiety, you will find a lot of resources available for you that can possibly help you. However, everybody is different. What I mean by everybody, I mean literally everybody, right? My body's different from yours, so I hope that the resources that you do come across online, you try it out and you see if it's helpful, and then you turn the page to figure out something else. Breathing techniques help, yoga helps, tea helps, talking it out is extremely helpful. And if you don't have a trusted person you can talk to, call, FaceTime, I recommend taking out a piece of paper, taking out a journal, and writing out all those ugly thoughts that you're feeling. Everything that you're feeling, all those ugly, dark emotions. I mean, go deep. That journal's going to be for you. Take it out. One of the biggest things that's helpful for anxiety is externalizing it. And by externalizing, I mean removing it from your body.
Putting words to thoughts, right?
Essentially, but
Or just getting it out of you.
getting it out
It's
of
like
you.
either
That's what it
writing,
means.
speaking it.
Arting it out.
Ooh, creating.
Creating.
Honestly, that's a creative's energy source.
Yeah.
It's the things that you struggle with,
Yeah.
or the spark that sometimes can drive your creativity.
Yeah.
I think for me that's a huge part. Even this, like us pulling this together, it comes from the need of it. Like needing it, wanting
of course.
it, knowing that it helps you. Like podcasts have always been something that's helped me. I know you've never been super big into podcasts.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, it's definitely a source. I mean, now we're obviously doing it because a lot of people are online. People have
Yeah.
always been online, but the time is ever pressing. So breathing exercises, yoga,
Okay, another
meditation.
thing-
You said externalizing and speaking about it. What else can somebody maybe do at home? Oh, by the way, I was going to say for the breathing thing,
Yeah.
if anyone has an Apple Watch, I just got one. My girl helped me buy it for Valentine's Day. Thanks so much. Shout out, babe. And there's an app on here, and I'm pretty sure you could probably get it on your phone, but it's called Breathe, and it literally teaches you how to take those deep breaths in, those deep breaths out. And okay, before I go on a rant, you want to do
more.
it?
So
Okay,
one
sorry.
second.
Yeah.
So another thing that you can look up is progressive muscle relaxation. If you can start your mornings or end your days with something like this, the progressive muscle relaxation, I feel like it can really steer away for your anxiety to not be so present. It can kind of just take detours, right? But what I really want to emphasize is that this all takes practice. If you find yourself and you love progressive muscle relaxation and you do it 2 days, 3 days, and then you eventually just kind of stop doing it, it's okay. Practice some self-compassion, some self-love, and some grace. And you can go back to doing that thing, but you have to find that thing that works for your anxiety. Right? So we are going to end this episode with my favorite breathing technique. Are you ready to learn it?
Yep.
And let me tell you,
Born ready. What?
let me tell you, baby. You can also use this technique not only for anxiety, but when you're feeling really stressed, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you are feeling out of control, your emotions are out of control, and you need some stabilization, and you need to feel grounded again.
All right, ground me.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So this is a breathing technique. So
I don't know why I crossed my legs like I was getting ready to.
It's okay.
Okay.
So what we're going to do, I'm going to lead you into it, right? You're going to be my little guinea pig.
Yep. I was born for this.
So you're going to put your right hand on your belly. Okay? And I invite you to gently close your eyes if you feel comfortable.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So the goal of this technique is to inflate and deflate your stomach as you inhale and exhale. So it is very helpful if you keep your hand on your belly the entire time. And we're going to count to 7 as we inhale. Okay, we're going to inhale 7. You're going to hold it at 8. And then you're going to exhale, count to 8 in your head all the way out. But I'm going to lead you today.
Okay.
However, during the exhale, we're going to make the sound of the ocean with our mouth. So you're doing 3 things at a time. You're counting in your head. You're making sure that you're inflating and deflating your belly as much as you can. And when you exhale, you're going to make a big You're going to exhale with your mouth, not through your nose.
How many times do you do that in and out? How many times do you do that sequence?
You do it 3 to 5 times.
Okay, bet.
Okay?
I'm ready.
So I'm going to lead it right now. So put your hand on your belly. I invite you to close your eyes.
And when you inhale is when your belly should go out.
Exactly.
Okay, understood. Okay, gotcha.
So you're going to inhale and deflate your belly.
Are you counting?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, hold on. We're going to get started one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're going to put your hand on your belly. I invite you to close your eyes. And then you're going to inhale. Make sure that your belly is moving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold it. Start to exhale really loudly. All the way out until 8.
I need you to count a little faster.
Okay,
my
that's
breath,
fine.
I don't have them kind of lungs yet. You've been doing this for years, apparently.
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Okay. So we're going to count. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold at 8. Exhale. 1 with your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I think 5's more realistic for me.
Well, this is the way that it's intended to be done.
Okay.
And
Maybe I need to breathe in slower, maybe?
It's important, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
maybe I'll
important
do
when
so.
I first started doing this, because yes, you're right, I've had some practice. I'm not a pro, I'm not an expert at anything, but I've had some practice. When I first started doing this, I used to rush it
That's
to
what
the
I'm
point
doing.
where it did not help me at all.
Okay.
So be mindful of if you're rushing your own breathing, because then it won't work. So I'm going to lead you one more time. Great. And when you exhale, look at me, Rafa. When you exhale, make the sound of the ocean like this.
Okay, got it.
Hear the sound. Okay. Gonna lead you one more time. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. There you go. And then you love it. You become addicted to it. Make sure that you are releasing any tension in your shoulders as you're exhaling. And make the sound of the ocean and envision the ocean if that's helpful for you when you're making that sound.
Okay. I think I need to practice a little more, but
How do you feel?
honestly, opening up my eyes, I feel like I don't know if it's like the influx of oxygen to my brain, but it honestly does feel a little bit better.
I'm telling you.
Sometimes it feels good and sometimes it doesn't, but I think it's probably because I probably rush it sometimes.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
now that you say it, I got this new perspective. Okay, people.
All
Anxiety.
right.
We talked about it. We talked about what it is, what it does, how it can look like in different people, and what you guys can do. Ending it with a little breathing exercise. Feel free to share any of the tips or the tips of how you identify it yourself.
Yes.
If there's ways that maybe we didn't even mention that you think are good,
Put it in the comments.
Put it in the comments.
We want people to learn.
We want to be able
Yeah.
to learn and get feedback from you guys.
Yes.
So feel free to share and leave some comments. Tag somebody that you think might need this. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna be those dudes. We're gonna shamelessly tell y'all to try and subscribe sometimes.
Not every time.
Okay, not every time.
You know what to do. That's all we're gonna say. You know what to do.
But subscribe. Okay. Love y'all. Peace. First episode of the Vulnerability Tour. We out.